Hey, everybody, welcome back to another episode of Cash Flow Positive. I'm your host, Kenny Bedwell, and today we're going to be talking about the top 10 STR markets to invest in and the actual markets themselves. I'm going to go through the entire list with you. And more importantly, during this episode, too, I'm going to tell you why I hate top 10 lists and why I think you should be cautious when people give out top 10 lists, including my own that I'm going to give you. So, lots of good nuggets. But before we go into the list, I'm actually going to start with that ending I just led off with, because here I am giving you a top 10 list. And I just told you I hate top 10 lists or I hate top market lists. Why is that the case? Because most of them are nonsense. The reality is people don't truly know where the best markets are to invest because we're limited in our knowledge. When you think about that, you're like, well, hold on, Kenny, don't you have the data? Don't you have all the insight? But there are so many factors and variables that go into what actually makes an investable market. Like, think about it for a second. When it comes to investable markets, you have to think about regulation, meaning like it could be the best housing prices and the best revenue, but you can't SDR there because of the rules. Like, it's not a good market, right? However, I see top market lists all the time include markets that have an insane amount of regulation. So think about that as you look at some of these lists. Another thing I think about too is the types of properties that do well. So when you see a top market list, you're like, well, certain types of properties don't actually do well where other ones do, and you have to have a certain budget to afford those types of properties. So it just completely rules out that market altogether. Or there's no inventory in that market whatsoever. So there are many different factors that can change whether a market is truly investable and should be on the top list for you. Okay. I love it when I see people put, oh, these are the top markets to invest in. And I love looking at their list because I've learned one thing. They are extremely biased, meaning it is based off of what they have personally seen and nothing else. Meaning there is no way in God's green earth that they've seen over 13,000, like they've looked at the data of over 13,000 vacation markets across the United States, because that's pretty much how many there are. And they've gone, these are the top markets. They only know based on experience, whether themselves investing or their students or maybe just random numbers like how Airbnb does it, just to call a spade there. But the reality is they're absolutely BS and they're extremely biased. One really funny thing I like to look at is whoever made the list, if they put an author like, oh, these are the top 10 lists, and then you can see their name. It usually corresponds to either they're from there or they have properties there, or maybe they have students there. So I'll see West Coast people, they'll put a ton of West Coast markets, and you're like, well, yeah, because you're in the West Coast. And I'll see people in the Southeast put a ton of Southeast markets. Yes, because you're in the Southeast. And it has absolutely nothing to do with the pure numbers. And you can't even go off the pure numbers. So it's very subjective. So keep that in mind as we're going through this list. So obviously, this list is going to be biased. I'm giving you a heads up, but it's biased in a sense of these are the top markets I've seen my personal clientele of my students go to and invest in. And I've looked at thousands of markets. I've looked at the data across the entire country, and I'm looking at markets not based on what potential future growth is, none of that crap. I mean, that's important. Future growth is important, but I'm not basing it purely upon, oh, how many people are moving to the nearby city or what were just the housing prices and average revenue in that market. To me, that stuff is too generic. And when you actually go and look in those markets, there's no deals there, right? So we have to think of it in a different perspective, meaning like what is truly investable, meaning the probability of me getting on Zillow right now and typing in one of the market names that I'm going to give you. What's the probability that I actually see something that makes sense? That's the real question. That's what I really wanted to sit down and review the markets that I've had in reports and that I'm finding success in with clients or even myself and go, these are the best markets I'm seeing. Now, just because you're not investing in one of these markets doesn't mean that you're in a bad market. Let's clear the air with that. I think that people think like when they see these lists, they're like, and they see their market name there and they're like, yes, I told everyone and you're all non-believers and your markets suck. And that's just not true, right? Remember, there's almost 13,000 markets across the US, and these lists are biased. They're opinions. They're not actually factually based in data. Even if it came from a data provider, it is very opinion based. And can be misleading in certain cases, a lot of cases, to be honest. So understand that when you hear these top lists. That's the first like rant I want to go off of. Another element too to these lists is just because a market is good for a certain person doesn't mean it's going to be good for you. That could be your budget, meaning you couldn't afford some of these markets, or maybe it doesn't actually make sense for you to go to certain markets because your budget's much higher and these markets, the properties are lower and it doesn't, I think of the Poconos, for example. They're not on the list, by the way. I'm not going to spoil the list until we go through it. So I think of the Poconos, for example, it's like properties there, you're not going to buy $1 million property. Okay. So if your budget's $1 million and you want to spend $1 million, Poconos is the right place to go. Are there deals there? Sure. But does it mean that you should actually look? No, because it's not worth buying a property $1 million in Poconos. Okay. So these are little things to think about as I'm going through the list here, meaning that I'm going to say some markets and I'm going to talk about those markets and try to give you all the data and the sense that you need to understand if it's a good fit for you, but it doesn't necessarily that's it, not a good fit for you or a good fit for you. So let's go ahead and hop into the list here. I'm going to start with number 10 and work all the way up to number 1. So on number 10, now I do have one Florida market that I have seen the most success in as of recently. When I say as of recently, I'm meaning like, we're in the middle of 2024 or, getting into the second half of 2024, July. And what are we seeing from a revenue standpoint in Florida with insurance rates rising and costs are just going up through the roof? It's getting really hard. It's getting hard in most areas. And so the reality is beachfront isn't necessarily good right now, to be frank, if you're looking in Florida. Now, does that mean Disney World's better? Heck no. It's too competitive, too saturated. Do not look in Kissimmee. I swear, if I see another Facebook post about, hey, I'm looking in Kissimmee or Nashville, I might throw something at the wall. I'm seriously frustrated of posts like that. And I don't mean to pick on Nashville, but I am picking on Orlando, Kissimmee area because it sucks. Okay. So that's the honest truth. If you really want to hear it from the horse's mouth, it's awful. Don't go there. Don't look there. Just too competitive, too saturated. Please stop looking there. Okay. So not the beach, not Orlando. Where, Kenny? Because that's pretty much it. Is you mean the Everglades? No. So the best market in Florida right now, in my opinion, which talking budget range, is actually going to be, it's kind of a region. So a lot of these are regions. So bear with Bradenton, Florida. Okay. Now, I don't love 3 bedrooms in Bradenton. They're okay. 3 bedrooms, okay. 2 bedrooms, kind of pushing it. 4 bedrooms, 5 bedrooms. Now we're talking, okay. So larger, but space, having space in these properties, budgets anywhere from like 450 on up to like 800. I think that's a sweet spot there. I do love the Tampa area. Clearwater's also solid. Watch out for regulations. Obviously, everywhere throughout here, HOAs, things like that. But we want space. We want amenities. Obviously, the pools, things like that. That's the best area right now. Tampa, Clearwater, Bradenton, Seminole, Florida is another one too. It's all kind of in this like little stretch right there. That's the best place to invest in Florida right now. If you had to pin me down and tell me you had to invest in Florida. And that comes in at number 10 in my markets or regions. And notice I'm going to talk about regions and not necessarily just individual tiny markets. So we've got, I call it Bradenton, but Tampa area is probably the better name for it, coming in at number 10. All right, number 9, Taos, New Mexico. All right, I get the biggest problem with Taos that I see with investors is inventory. Now, Taos is actually several markets, and that's really, really important to note. Meaning, if you go into Airbnb and you type in Taos, okay, it's going to pull up Taos, it's going to pull up El Prado, it's going to pull up some other words I can't pronounce of places, and also Angel Fire and just the surrounding area. And that's the entire region, and that's a good area to look into. Now, there are sub markets within, so be wary of that and look out. But I do like Taos, and it's a good ski market. Best ski market in the West for returns is Taos, New Mexico. It's Taos Ski Valley and Angel Fire too. Coming in at number 8, I have the Finger Lakes of New York. Now, here's the thing. You can call me biased because I got a property in the Finger Lakes. I live in New York. Hey, I know the area. Guess what? There were some stupid returns there, and I'm continually seeing stupid returns there. So, or I just keep my mouth shut because I'm biased about it? No, I'm going to share it. So, Finger Lakes is great. The Catskills isn't terrible. It's hard, but man, I've seen stuff there about once a month or once every other month. I'll see something really, really good there. And that's in New York. So, I mean, there are tiny like these tiny markets all across the country now. Catskills isn't that tiny. It's actually a region. But Finger Lakes over the Catskills 100% because Catskills are kind of expensive. But I really like a lot of the markets in New York and New Hampshire. It's another good, and Maine. Those are like my top three states. I'm not trying to give away all the markets right now, but hint, hint, we're going to run into some of those more coming into the better performing markets on the list. So Finger Lakes of New York. I like it. Now, higher purchase price range, higher budget, probably talking maybe 600 up to even a billion in this area. But Finger Lakes, you want to be on the lake. Okay. Number 7, and this is a secret market that really not a lot of people are talking about. I have seen it on some other lists. So you might have heard of it. So I'm going to say South Haven. Now, someone listening is going to inevitably say, well, Kenny, South Haven, hmm, there's some regulation there. And there are, but it's not just South Haven. There's Saugatuck, there's New Buffalo, there's Michigan City, which is Indiana, not necessarily Michigan, but we're talking about the southwest portion of Michigan into Indiana. And why are people going there? People from Chicago, they call it Chicago money, comes up there and stays in that area. I've seen some stupid numbers there, lakefront, non-lakefront, areas close to South Bend, which is near Notre Dame, all really, really good. You want higher bedroom counts, pool if possible on the lake. Very seasonal, keep that in mind, but so is the Finger Lakes. And great, great returns in those areas. Beware of tax reassessments. They get a killer in Michigan right now. So be wary of that. As if you find something that you really like in those markets, make sure you understand what the tax reassessment is going to be. All right, let's keep moving. So we've got number 6. Okay, number 6, Bourbon Trail. Now we're getting into some good, juicy markets. Okay, Bourbon Trail. We've heard this one before. Bourbon Trail is actually a really big area. It's between Louisville and, did I say that right? Anybody from Louisville? Louisville, I got to say that right. Not Louisville or Louisville, what people in Nashville call that area. But that's what I've heard. But Louisville. So Louisville all the way to Lexington, Kentucky. In between there, so you have Bardstown, you have Lawrenceburg, you have Frankfurt, you have Shelbyville. Okay, those are kind of the hot spots in the bed. Guys, I almost don't want to tell you some of the numbers I'm hearing from folks there and they're doing, and clients, how well they're doing and the success they're having. But needless to say, it's a good market. You should check it out. Be wary of regulation. Once again, you do have to get some permits. So just be careful, be cautious, but there's great returns in some of these markets. So definitely Bourbon Trail is on the list. All right, number 5, Luray and Shenandoah. So Luray, they're next to each other, so we'll just say Shenandoah, which is near the Shenandoah National Park. This is in Virginia. Lower purchase price budget, you're talking 300, maybe even as low as 200, all the way on up to maybe like a 5 or 550, nothing more than that. Okay. So these houses, they're going to be mountain views or even on the river. If you can get on the river, that is a sweet spot in Luray or Shenandoah, even up to Front Royal. Be careful. Front Royal has some regulations. That's a really good market, very affordable, great returns. I love Luray in that area right there. You have Washington, D.C. and Baltimore. Those two cities pulling traffic down into this area. I think about 3 million people go to the national park there every single year. So very good area to target and to look at. There's a ski resort down there too called Wintergreen and then Gaysville. Know lots of people in all of these markets in these areas doing very well. So check out Luray or the Shenandoah region, Shenandoah Valley. All right. So at number 4, Asheville, North Carolina. Now, Asheville has gotten very competitive. Okay. It's getting there, at least I should say. It's not Smokies level. It's not Scottsdale level. It's not Broken Bow or Blue Ridge level. It's getting there, but it's still a really good market. I'm still seeing really good deals. And the crazy thing is we haven't seen the true potential of what a lot of properties can do. Meaning every month I keep finding or seeing someone in the data like outperforming and doing way better than what they probably should be doing or what was expected. Which tells me that market is still untapped. It still has a ton of potential and it is exploding with growth. So the only thing I'm a little cautious on is just potential regulation. There's always talk in the area, but there's nothing that's been confirmed or they're going to actually do this. They're super angry. People love short-term rentals. It's just, there's HOAs, so be careful there. But that is a good market in region. So when I say region, I mean, there's Black Mountain, Swannanoa, Candler, Leicester, maybe Canton, Henderson, maybe down to Hendersonville, but Fairview and some of these other surrounding areas. Love Asheville, North Carolina in that region. Great market, great place to be at number 4 there. Higher purchase price budget though. Okay. I know that you can afford cheaper stuff, but they're so competitive. If you look at the numbers in STR Insights of the number of like one, two, threes, four, fives, and sixes, it drops. Once you go from threes to fours, it's like there's like 603 bedrooms and then like, 204 bedrooms and then like 55 bedrooms and then like 15 6 bedrooms. That's it. And you're like, there's a lot of demand for those higher bedroom counts in that particular market. All right, let's go up. So number three, I have in this market is starting to well, it's gotten a lot more competitive, but it's just something to keep an eye on and be careful with is Newry, Maine. I love Newry, Maine. I've been talking about this market for some time now. It's still really good, but we have to be careful on location. Okay, close and near the ski resort within 10 minutes. Okay, not across the stupid river on the other side where the houses are cheaper. If your budget's less than 750, 800, Newry, Maine really is the best place to be. Maybe Bethel could work, a lower bedroom count, but I really like the close to the ski resorts views. You're not going to be at the ski resort. That's fine. That's normal. Okay. But near the ski resort, 10 minutes and having views is really, really key to separate you. Great market, good potential. Just make sure you include the snow plowing fees in your pro forma for the expenses because that one will get you. Okay. Coming in at number two, the Red River Gorge. So these last two, these are for lower purchase price budgets. When I say lower purchase price, I'm meaning less than $600,000 for both these top two markets. Very good markets in terms of ROI. Once again, there's a little bit of that bias that's coming in. Is it purely just based on numbers or is it based on cash flow? Is it based on regulation? All these different factors come into play. But when it comes to simple ROI, I love the Red River Gorge, Kentucky. Very, very affordable. You want to be as close as possible, but there's a lot of great opportunity. If you get something with views, that is a diamond right there for you. So I love the Red River Gorge, great area to invest in. And finally, at number one, super underrated. I get laughed at for saying this market. I sent this market one time on social media and people were like, LOL, you're joking. And I was like, I'm not. So like, what? And I know people who invest here and they make stupid money. It's just like it's one of those like perceived notation. And that's why it makes this market so awesome, I think, is because people are afraid to invest in it. And that is the great market of Berkeley Springs, West Virginia. So obviously West Virginia has its, connotations and we think of West Virginia as West Virginia, right? But this market, guys, is a vacation market. I drove through there recently on a road trip, and there is a ton of people there in the summertime just enjoying the vacation, the rivers. So they got rafting and hiking and all kinds of stuff to do in the summertime. And so it's a really, really, really popular market in terms of travel and demand. There's not a lot of good places to stay. And so it's cheaper. Yes, you can get a cabin for, 3, 4, 500,000. Wouldn't go above that. Maybe get some A-frames, build some A-frames if you have some more capital to dispense up, and it just crushes, guys. So the numbers are crazy there. I really like Berkeley Springs, West Virginia as the number one market to invest in as of today. And it is a very solid place. The only problem you're going to run into is inventory. So you can find something good. You might have to do some renovation. There's more stuff available. If you're open to do a renovation, there's more stuff available, but lower purchase price. Maybe not for the people who are looking for just purely cash flow only. If you're looking for a good ROI and cash return, Berkeley Springs is the best one for you. Now, let's back up. If you're looking for cash flow, all right, which is kind of what the podcast is about, right? So if you're just looking for cash flow, where out of all the top markets, where would I be looking? Really, it's going to come to, we've got Newry, number 3 could be a good one. But in my opinion, with the lowest expenses, that's really big. Lowest expenses is going to impact cash flow, not just revenue. Newry has higher expenses, has good revenue, but high expenses, meaning it can offset now, are you going to break even there? No, you're going to make money there. But the reality is that there are higher expenses in Newry. So the best market for cash flow is going to be Asheville, North Carolina on that list. And then coming in a close second, and I mean a very close second, would be the Bourbon Trail. Okay. So cash flow markets, I love Asheville, Bourbon Trail, and then going back to Newry again. That would be kind of my top 3 list there. So hopefully that's helpful for those of you who are like, well, Kenny, I want cash flow, not just cash on cash, because you know the difference between the two. And the reality is we want our time to be worth something, and cash flow is important. I love Asheville. Just be careful. Views, space, seclusion, privacy, all these great things are amazing towards the returns, the revenue, generating higher revenue at properties, and obviously proximity to the city itself. So check out those markets, guys. I hope this list was helpful for you, even though I just ripped top markets list all together at the very beginning. But I hope you're still with me. And here's the thing: on the next episode, I want you to listen to this episode in particular because I'm bringing somebody on who has invested in some of these markets that we're talking about in the list, but she is based in a huge popular market that I rag on all the time. And she has some properties that are doing very well, but they're not doing as well as these properties in these types of markets that we just mentioned. And what I want you to listen to is because maybe you're listening to this, you're like, I've never heard of some of the markets you're saying, or maybe I've heard of Asheville, but I'm just afraid to invest there because I don't know what's there. I want you to hear her story and how she went from some of these other bigger markets to the smaller ones and taking that leap of faith before everyone else knew about it. And so listen to that episode. That's the part 2 coming out this Thursday to get those insights and the knowledge and the nuggets from investing into top markets that you've never had experience with before, in terms of, all these people and all these friends investing there, being the first ones to these places. So I hope you enjoyed this episode. I look forward to seeing you on the next episode of Cash Flow Positive. This is Kenny signing out.